I've been trying for a couple of days to make a good video talking about green Ops LPVO. Yeah, hey, smile. But as you can see, I don't have control of my own life. We've got 4 boys, and at some point, one of them is always going to be demanding my attention. So I took green Ops LPVO almost 2 weeks ago. Awesome weekend, awesome time. I'm gonna caveat with a few things. First of all, I am good friends with Chris and Steph. I think they're awesome people. I've shot matches with them. I love shooting with them. I would say good things about them regardless, but we're friends. Whatever. That's gonna skew what I say, whatever. And also, conveniently, I'm wearing a green Ops sweatshirt. I'm also really good friends with Josh, who wasn't at class because he's a loser and was teaching some other class at the time. Anyway, I want to caveat this with, I went into the class wanting to learn a bit about LPVO use and shoot out to 500, which I'd done in the Marine Corps, but I'd also realized I was shooting tank-sized targets, so my confidence had kind of gone down a little bit. Are you eating the wrapper? Yeah, you're supposed to eat this. Eat this, not the wrapper. Yeah, anyway. So I went into the class, I had taken the red dot off. Obviously, this is not an LPVO. We'll get to that. I went into class thinking I took this off, put on my Viper 1-6. Figured I would put this on right after class and I would go right back to the red dot. Because as everybody knows, 200 yards in or whatever, the red dot gets the job done. Ignore the fact that I'm colorblind and can't see steel targets at 100 yards unless they're really distinct. Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. Right now, the only reason this is on is because I broke my LPVO like half an hour into class, which 2 things, it still worked, still had 0, still worked fine, so it wasn't a big issue. And 2, Chris was like practically throwing his spare rifle at me, like, here, just use this. I'm like, no, we can make this work. That's the kind of people they are. So it was Chris, Steph, Jose, and Mike. I don't know Jose and Mike from before. I've heard of them, but I didn't know them personally. So I'm going to talk more about Chris and Steph because we're homies, and they were also leading the class a little bit more. Hi. Yeah, this is going really well. Long story short, take the class. It's an awesome time. Magpul has a really cool video. Actually, it's like a 5-minute video. It looks super cool. It's super well done. It's not some dude sitting on his kitchen floor with his 6-month-old eating a purple tea. This is going really well, guys. Anyway, so LPVO was, you show up, there was about an hour and a half of classroom stuff. This was just going over basic zeros, how to get behind your gun, which some of it seems really simple. If you have a foundation, you might find some of it boring, but some of it was necessary. And when you see the very level of skill in class, you can't just say, hey, everybody comes to class, everybody has to have prior military experience, whatever. They do try and screen a little bit for that, but it's hard to do it completely. So to cover zeros, the different distances, why they recommend a 50-yard zero, what bullet weights what effect bullet weights have. For the record, I'm shooting 55 grain. Super cheap, whatever. It was literally the cheapest stuff on Target Sports USA. You do not need a fancy gun or a fancy optic or ammo or anything. I have a Knight's gun because one of my buddies is ridiculous and gave it to me. And the Viper 1-6 was good enough. Like, good enough gets the job done, guys. The dude took top shot for the class. I think he had a Strike Eagle 1-6. So as long as you can see, you can do it, which the big thing was I was super impressed with how capable we all were at 500 yards. It was obscene. Is that good? We were shooting reduced IPSC targets or something like that. Then varied, or there's a buffalo at 500 yards. Anyway, started with a class 0. That was the first live fire we did. If anyone's ever been to a class, you know there's always gonna be 1 or 2 people that need to completely move their sight, or they're not shooting well enough to have a 0. So it's like, all right, if your 0 is good, get off the line. I stayed on the line because, as you guys can see, I don't have a lot of spare time, so I was like, I'm going to shoot as much as I can. So I ended up shooting there was like 4 or 5 times we did 5-round groups. So I could shoot like 25 rounds right off the bat, which I was having a blast. I'm there just to have fun shooting and warming up and practicing my fundamentals. Right off the bat, I learned to press the trigger differently because in the Marine Corps, you get taught to press the gun cycles and then slowly release, and then USPSA, everything else, to just smack that trigger. And then this was kind of like a press and then release. Like, it's kind of halfway point between the two, which at first I questioned. I was like, oh, you guys click banging. And then I talked to Steph, and she's like, no, it works, and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I'm not teaching the class. I'm just telling you about the class. After that, we moved like right onto the long distance stuff from like 140 yards up to 500 yards. And we had covered zeros and what like rough holds would be. And I was absolutely shocked at like how quickly we got impacts on targets at 500 yards or 400 yards or whatever distance you were shooting at, and how smoothly it ran. And then I realized it makes a huge difference having someone capable with, they were using binos, but having someone capable with binos calling your hits for you, or if you're missing, they can direct you. It's kind of like going to driver's ed. If you throw a kid in a car and just say drive, they're probably not going to do that well. But if you have someone that can actually teach sitting next to them, not their mom or dad that's screaming at them to brake 500 feet away from another car, but if you have someone capable of teaching them, it's a lot easier, and that's what this was. It was a lot of fun. I did not go into this thinking I was going to learn as much as I did. I was going to shoot long range, and I wanted to hang out with my friends and get away, and thinking I was going to go right back to red dot. And instead, I saw the capability of what even just a simple reticle on the Viper 1-6 could do. By the end of class, I was running everything almost either clean or completely clean, and much quicker than I expected. Shooting in the prone with a sling, like the Marine Corps helped out with that, which I do bash like how little you learn in the Marine Corps, but you do learn basic positions, so that did help out. But we did the long range stuff in the morning. In the afternoon, it was 50 yards and in stuff, shooting on the move, shooting rapidly, transition, stuff like that. All stuff I'm very comfortable with. And the cool thing is being friends with Chris, and mostly Chris, I could do gamer stuff and he'd give me grief, but it was okay. And that's the thing, is even if I wasn't friends with Chris or Steph, or even if I brought PX4s out, because of course I brought PX4s and I had Jose and Mike and Steph and Chris shoot them. Even if I wasn't friends with them, they're all professional people in their own right. Jose, Mike, and Chris have like super long backgrounds in special operations and all that fancy stuff. And then Steph was in, I knew who Steph was before I met her because she wrote articles about armory stuff, and then now she's been shooting NRL and all this other, she was probably the most capable long-range shooter there. So they're all very capable, but they don't spend like an hour telling you about their background. They're just like, okay, this is what I did. This is why we're doing this. It's not because of like, oh, this is the way we did it. Like, this is the way it works out. And then the coolest thing was on day 2, we did a positional barricade shooting off of just random things they had built. There was a VTAC barricade, but like you were just using it to get different positions, like high kneeling, seated, weird standing positions, and then finding out like why you might shoot high. Day 2, that barricade shooting was probably my favorite day, because Steph went through how to build your positions, and then you got to dry fire them, live fire them for a little bit, and then we had a little competition. But then after the competition, it was like, all right, this is basically free play. They didn't call it that, but it was basically you got to go to whatever you wanted to and shoot it and ask questions. And it was like big boy rules. It wasn't like having an instructor right over your shoulder. It was just, you get to work on this. If you have a question, give me a shout, whatever. And they were there to help, but they let you take what you had learned and try and work on it your own, not just like, oh, just because you know it, now you just magically can do it. It's like, go practice this, which was awesome. And then in the afternoon, it was, I don't know what they call it. I'm going to call it buddy movement. That's kind of what we did. It was working with a teammate to move to a couple of different positions and communicate between each other and work your LPVO from close magnification, or like 1x up all the way up to 6, 10, whatever you had. So that was on a 50-yard range initially, and initially, I'll be honest, like I've done a lot of that in the Marine Corps. Not like, oh, I'm like a badass. It's more like we did it to death in the Marine Corps, and like, this is boring. And then on my first run, I realized like this is actually, it's almost like the value of competition, where you have to do all of the stuff that you've been taught, and you're a little bit stressed out because you have somebody else you're supposed to be working at, everybody else in the class is watching you, whatever. So it actually pretty valuable. And he's gonna start. What are you doing? Are you crawling? Are you crawling? Anyway, after the 50-yard area, we moved on to do another long distance range at a different spot. And then you do it's a combination of there's close targets and targets up to 400 yards, and you have to work with your buddy to engage all of those, which was awesome. It was a great time. Again, stressed like doing everything at once, while not necessarily on a timer, but under some kind of stress of shoot fast and do it properly. All in all, awesome class. Finally, I did not get this class for free. I did not get a discount. I'm not getting paid to do this. I mean, obviously, who's going to pay for this kind of review? This is like 10 minutes of me sitting on my floor talking about this. The gun is, right now, the red dot's on it, and I know everyone's going to be like, oh, home defense, whatever. Yeah, red dot's ideal, but I'm pretty confident with the 1X on an LPVO. I'm going to upgrade to a Razor, I think. But once that comes back from Vortex, I'm fully committed to switching over to LPVO. I'm a one rifle kind of person, and honestly, home defense, I'm either going to be using the gun that's in my pants, or I'm not going to be home, so this is going to be useless anyway. But the cool thing about the LPVO is I can do almost the exact same thing I can do with red dot, but then at my local 100-yard range, I can work all the positional stuff shooting. I can practice on paper 100 yards and get pretty good, and then maybe hit up somebody sometime and go out to a distance course. So if you want to go to Green Ops LPVO, one, go watch the Magpul video because it's going to look a lot better than me. And if you have questions, drop them below. But Green Ops teaches an awesome class. I had an absolute good time. Whoa, we almost fell over. Anyway, 2 thumbs up for Green Ops.